Listening to music feels effortless, but biologically, it is a massive computational integration problem. The brain is continuously capturing sequential audio data, holding it in working memory, and manipulating it to predict structural patterns. To make sense of a song, your auditory system has to process this data across radically different timescales simultaneously, from the milliseconds of a single frequency to the minutes of a complete melody. Take a highly structured pop track like Miley Harris's Flowers. Your brain builds short-range context by tracking the immediate rhythm, anticipating exactly when the drums will drop out to isolate the vocal in the chorus. At the same time, it tracks the harmonic structure. When the underlying chords shift from an E major to a dominant seventh right before the hook, the brain calculates the mathematical tension based strictly on the immediate preceding notes, predicting the resolution. But the track also operates on long-range intertextual context. Flowers shares specific structural, tempo, and harmonic motifs with Bruno Mars's When I Was Your Man. Recognizing that relationship requires the brain to integrate context across a span of years, retrieving an entirely different song from long-term memory and mapping it onto the audio currently hitting the eardrum. Precise, the auditory cortex is tasked with physically encoding and organizing these radically different lengths of context within the same neural tissue. Researchers are now mapping this mechanism by treating the brain like a machine learning algorithm. By utilizing generative sequence-to-sequence AI transformers, they can predict human scalp and intracranial brain recordings during music listening. Using AI as a mathematical bridge, the data reveals a spatial hierarchy in the brain for processing musical context. It is a biological hardware system that is rewired entirely by musical expertise. The methodology begins with complex classical MIDI files fed through Music Autobot, a 13-layer sequence-to-sequence transformer model. At layer 1, data embeddings are completely tangled, representing only raw acoustic frequencies. As data pushes toward the deepest stage, layer 13, it forms disentangled representations. By this final layer, the model groups the notes by abstract structural properties, like duration or piece identity. Think of this process like an audio producer using sidechain gating or precise equalization in a digital audio workstation to isolate and organize overlapping frequencies into distinct channels. The deep layers of the transformer act as an algorithmic audio engineer, actively sorting raw acoustic sound into highly abstracted architectural features. The next step is mapping this algorithmic structure to the human brain. Researchers used temporal response functions to predict human scalp EEG responses directly from the transformer's 13 layers. This graph maps BEG predictions against transformer layers. Initially, both musicians and non-musicians show increased correlation. The critical divergence occurs at layer 9, where the non-musician prediction flatlines. But the neural encoding of expert musicians continues scaling synchronously with the model, climbing to layer 13. Extensive musical training physically upgrades the brain's hardware. It expands cognitive capacity to process highly disentangled structural variables that amateur auditory systems cannot access. This divergence highlights the biological limit of a context window, the specific number of preceding sequence items a system can hold to accurately predict the next event. To test the boundaries of human neural capacity, researchers artificially restricted the transformer's context window, scaling it from a single note up to 300 preceding notes. This chart measures neural correlation against that expanding context window. For non-musicians, neural encoding maximizes and plateaus at roughly 100 preceding notes. The musician data behaves differently. Their encoding continues to strengthen, tracking the architecture up to 300 notes. When mapping the anatomical location of this extended processing, the data shows that handling this massive structural context heavily lateralizes to the left hemisphere in expert brains. In effect, expertise triples the biological working memory for musical architecture. It relies on specialized left lateralized networks to maintain that continuous structural context. Knowing who processes the context naturally leads to identifying exactly where it is physically integrated. To map this, researchers shifted to intracranial EEG. Intracranial recordings reveal a spatial gradient. The primary auditory cortex correlates with early transformer layers, while distal peripheral sites mirror the deepest algorithmic layers. Music perception is a physical, spatial journey across the cortex. It moves systematically outward from raw frequency detection at the core to deep architectural integration at the periphery. The human brain does not just receive audio, It operates a distributed, highly structured, hierarchical predictive model to decode it. There is a strict spatial division of labor. Early neural regions handle the immediate raw frequencies, while peripheral regions maintain the long-range architectural context. Through neural plasticity, rigorous musical training physically enhances this entire hierarchical system. Experts establish robust left-lateralized cortical networks capable of holding deeper, disentangled variables in their working memory over extended durations. This alignment between deep learning and biological processing carries major implications for computational neuroscience. These sequence-to-sequence AI models have evolved into systems that perform functions overlapping with the mechanics of the human brain. In fact, the layer-wise processing algorithms of modern transformers mathematically and spatially mirror our own biological neural architecture. By directly predicting human intracranial activity, these models offer a mathematical blueprint for the architecture of human cognition.